Well, I came back out. We had, I don't know, 40 mils of rain and 15 to 20 mils of freezing rain. There's been no power for about 24 hours here. But I was very happy to see the tulips that I had taken a video of the other day are actually still all here. They're still all thriving. They're still poking up. Everything looks really healthy. There's some serious branches that fell, and so we're kind of working our way through that. We got really lucky here at the back of the greenhouse. You can see here this one broke off and landed here. And then if I walk around to the other side of the greenhouse, we're going to find that I got the exact same amount of luck right here where the branch fell between the walls and the arbor. And so those two fell. We had more fall on two of our other maple trees on the property. So there's just a bit of mess to clean up, but we'll get through it. I'm just happy to see things are still okay. We're gonna have power. We have a generator. So all those things worked. We even used the generator to keep the greenhouse warm for an extra few days. There's a tiny bit of frost damage because it got to about 2 degrees in there because we weren't trying to heat it too much, but kept pretty much everything safe. So I'm breathing a sigh of relief a bit this morning, but you definitely can see the difference from what it was like when I videoed in the sunshine. You can actually hear the rain. It was just not rain. It's actually the ice melting from all of these treetops. I am going to try to harden off some of these guys to get them into the ground, hopefully by end of the weekend or early next week. So these are 2 trays of lisianthus, a tray of ranunculus, and what germinated from a tray of Iceland poppies. And we'll put those into the ground. I'm hoping on Sunday. Currently it's Thursday, so it's a bit quick. So it might have to creep into next week, depending. Right now, we're having actually really decent temperatures. We went from like -10 to +10. So in Celsius, so that's pretty decent. So I'm gonna set them out here for an hour or 2 today. We'll try 3 or 4 hours tomorrow, and we'll just slowly progress, and then I'll leave them overnight in our tempo on Saturday if the temperatures don't dip too much, or Sunday. So we'll see about that, and then maybe I can get these babies into the ground. The ones I've been growing inside my own lisianthus that did not come from Jolly Farmer are not really big enough, so I'm a little bit worried. So I will try. I'll actually go and bring you in and show you them again. We showed you in the last video, but they're still quite small in comparison. If you see here, these little lisianthus babies. You can see everything is a bit of a mess in here right now as I moved a bunch of stuff around really quickly. The other thing is down here, I went and grabbed some ranunculus corms from the store just to try and see if I could do it. They weren't from a place that I was hoping for. The soil has stayed moist, but nothing has sprouted, and it's been about a week and a half. So I am going to wait another couple weeks and see if anything does germinate out of this or like sprout into little babies, and see if I can get them in the ground in time. I'm doing the same thing with some dahlias that I had, where I'm waking them up. They're not ready to go in the ground anytime soon. So if it takes another 2 or 3 weeks for them to wake up and see where the eyes are, that's okay. These are just some clumps I grabbed. I'm gonna pot them in pots. These are not gonna go in the actual garden beds. But I just wanted to have a little bit more color and cheer, and I really couldn't afford to spend more on dahlias than I already have, because I am over $1,000 this year on the investment in dahlias, about $800 in the investment in tulips, and about $1,500 from a Jolly Farmer and other growing operations. So that has kind of taken out the entirety of my budget. And as you see, these are still doing pretty good. The heucheras and the Gerber daisies, and this is another tray of ranunculus little strip. I need to get that out. But the eucalyptus at the 2 degrees took a little bit of a hit. It's not looking quite as good as it did. You can see here, some of them are a little bit damaged, so I'm just gonna water them a bit, watch them, try to keep them warm, and see how they do in a few days. And then over here, more geraniums. This tray right here is of the Osteo Passion, I think, or Gelato Passion. And then my heuchera and this lovely vining baby here, which is a Centura, I believe. So beautiful. And I'm gonna try to get some straw flowers out soon-ish, but probably not for a little while. The other thing I'm gonna start hardening off next week or so, will be the sweet peas. But I'll take my time with those and let them take like, you know, a good week or two to get ready to go into the ground. But I will grab this little tray with me on my way out and let it sit for an hour outside with the others. Ranunculus babies, I'm hopeful for you. And here we go. In their own little spot. And then I'll water these all before I bring them back into the greenhouse in an hour. All right. So this is a Saturday, April 7th update. And I have now been able to put the Lisianthus, ranunculus, and Iceland poppies outside for about 6 hours today. Tomorrow I'm going to aim for 8, and then Monday overnight. So I'm a day behind, but it was 2 degrees today for most of the day, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to kill everything. And for the most part, you can see they're doing pretty okay, but you can see a little bit on the edging here, all the way through here, where it's a little bit sad. So I'm gonna let it perk back up, give it some drink, and I think it will do just fine. And I started organizing around in here today. So now the calendula are just starting to germinate. I sowed some more snapdragons. I potted up and moved around some of the eucalyptus. I gave the yarrow a really good soak, and I potted up my asters and some hydrangeas. I really love these, so I just had to bring them in. And then I threw some dahlia seeds in a few places that are random, just to see how those were going to turn out and give myself some flowers that are in the greenhouse as they come along. And then I'll move those pots outside or pot them up or put them in the ground. It'll give me some choices. And then if I come over here, you can see the ranunculus is the same boat as the Lisianthus. It's a little bit worn, but not too bad. The heuchera took a little bit of frost damage yesterday because our heater failed. The oil furnace, the blower, stopped working in the middle of the night, and the coldest temperature that I got in the greenhouse was 0 degrees. So the eucalyptus, the heuchera, and some of the snapdragons took a little bit of a beating. I'll show you the snapdragons that were not happy. These were not happy. I potted them up. They were in a tray that looked like this, but this tray looks totally fine, and they were side by side. So it's a bit weird how susceptible some plants are, but that's just how it is. And then my veg is doing awesome. There we go. And the kids got a beautiful, cute, wonderful little rabbit, Holland Lop, from their grandmother as a gift. She did ask us, we gave permission. I actually really love rabbits a lot. And I'm gonna grow some extra veggies just for the rabbits so the kids can harvest, prepare, and feed, and learn some responsibilities of taking care of animals. Since we want to get chickens too eventually, it'll start to get them in that mode, but also understanding, like, respecting how animals operate, and that they don't all want to be picked up, they don't all want to be chased, they don't want to be yelled at, and letting them understand what the signs of comfort and happiness are in an animal. So we're learning on growing in every way, and I'm going to keep that up. So I am here, and I am putting in a short bed of some ranunculus. They have really needed to go in, and we just had a big ice storm here in Quebec, so that left us in a bit of a problematic position of getting these things into the ground when they needed to, because we were much more focused on the fact that we needed to make sure things like our freezers were working and that we had some level of power, because we spent 6 days with no power. And then there was the cleanup that had to come from that whole mess. So now I am here sitting in the dirt and trying to plant out some trays of ranunculus. So far I've planted half of this 8x4 bed. I have put 39 plants in. I have a trellis in the middle that's actually for sweet peas. This wasn't going to be our ranunculus bed, but we have not actually had time to prep the field at our farm. And because of the ice storm, everything is extra wet, and so we're having to wait a little bit of time for that. But these couldn't really wait. They needed to be in. So my goal today is to at least get this tray planted and my 2 trays of Lisianthus that are waiting to go into the ground. so that they have a chance to start growing. They're taking over my vegetable bed. But what can you do? That's kind of how this goes sometimes. And I can plant vegetables at the farm. They don't go in for, a good, I guess, 5 or 6 weeks from now in Canada, in my zone. Because you can hear the birds, it's so good. I love it too much. But in my zone, the last frost is not until about the long weekend in May. So that's like around May 24th. And for some stuff I plant actually a little bit later than that, because occasionally we get a hidden late frost in the last week of May. So I figured I'll just swap out some plans. Not everything goes to how we think things are going to go, and I just need to get started. My tulips and daffodils are looking lovely. They're coming right up nice, but this I have to get done. And I figure I'm going to be at this particular task for the ranunculus for only about another 15 minutes. It's actually quite quick once you get started to just get all the little plugs into the ground. But by the time I get this and the Lysianthus all in, it will probably be time for me to start my work day, because I'm starting this right after dropping off the kids at school. And so this is what I got planned. I'll show you more as I get it done. So one of the things I don't talk about a lot here is I have multiple chronic illnesses, which means a few disabilities. That means not only am I a bigger person, but actually physically getting around is a lot maybe harder, a lot painful. I have like recovery time. When I do like a day, like a planting day, it will take me 2 or 3 days to feel well again. And I have to balance that around having my kids, being able to do the things that moms do and you need to do in households, and making sure everyone is fed, and then doing the things that fill my cup back up and bring me joy. Some people look at me and go, why on earth would you ever want to take on something like flower farming? You already work, you have 3 kids, you're married, you have like so much on your plate. But it's literally what brings me the joy. It brings me light, it brings me happiness. It is worth it to see this little seedling grow up, produce a bloom, and make a beautiful flower, and give myself and others joy with it. So I keep going. And I think that that's actually healthy. Like, I know some people are like, oh, you need to focus on your health, you need to stop, you can't do that. I'm not a big fan of the, I can't do that, I'll stop when I need to. I'll go at the pace that I need to, which for some people, my pace might feel really, really slow, especially with what I take on. But I'm somebody who, most days, can give a fair amount every day. And when I can't, I stop. When I need a break, I stop. It's one of the reasons that if we do decide to do things like markets for the farm, I will probably hire someone to guarantee the consistency that they can show up and do and deliver, and set markets up and not be in excruciating pain, and like be welcoming and inviting all the time to those that come to the booth table, what have you. And I think that's okay. I need to be in a position to do that. Hiring people is not free, of course, it costs money. But I am lucky enough that this right now isn't my career. I would love it to be, and I'm working on having it become that, and being able to move into this rather than the tech job that I have where I sit at a desk all day. And I'm in meetings all day, and I can't be outside, and I can't enjoy the weather, the air, the getting up and just moving, and what that can do for my own health in some instances is really important. And it's often underrated. So my goal is to be able to do this well enough to be able to afford to hire when I need to rely on my community when I need to, which I have a great one, and to, grow the work ethic and love with my children, who also have taken a shine and a love for things like gardening. My daughter is always looking at what plants are doing, how they're doing, how the babies have grown. My youngest son always wants to know where his plants are, and he ends up getting a dedicated little bed, and he will come and check. My oldest is always like, where are my fruit trees? Where are the apple trees? Where's the cherries? When are they going to bloom? Can I eat them this year? So they all have their own pieces that they really love, and I value that, and I want to keep growing that. I'm not going to force them to work per se, but they can come out and help their family. So when I'm sitting and having a day on a Sunday, and I'm like, I'm going to go out planting, and I ask, often they want to come out and they want to go, okay, Mom, we'll help you plant, this row, or we'll harvest this row, or we'll get the bag of soil ready for you, or we'll bring you your watering can. And just little tiny acts of kindness from my family and my community enable me to do this too. So I have what space I have left in there planted, and I still have this much left in my tray. So I have a partial third bed, and this is really a bit chaotic, is I have a partial third bed where I can put some of these in. So I am going to go ahead and do that to get them in the ground. And then I'll have ranunculus in 3 different little plots that were not meant for ranunculus, but they will be in the ground, growing, and giving me blooms in about 6 weeks or so. So I'll take it. So here we go. I got this whole bed minus one spot where there is some perennial echinacea, and the yarrow at the end is now full of ranunculus. Both sides of my sweet pea trellis area is full of ranunculus. Half of this bed, which is half daffodils and tulips. And you can see my garlic beds. And I stuck a few in my own personal little perennial garden where I don't cut them out unless it's for me. So we'll see how those go. So I am going to have to get the farm area tilled up because there is no space for my 288 Lysianthus. There is probably some space in that tulip bed. I don't know if you can see the gap right there for me to get the Iceland poppies in. So I'm going to do that. And with all of that done, I still have about 8 of these. So when I go to put the Lysianthus in the next couple of days at the farm property, I'll throw these in. I just didn't want to make them wait. And these actually look like some of the healthier ones. So I'm really excited for how they look. So I'll get them in the ground. Let's take a tour inside the greenhouse. It's a bit of a disaster right now. I've been moving everything around in here, but I did pot up a bunch of things and move stuff into crates for easier watering. So you can see here, some eucalyptus, some cilantro, lettuce, craspedia are in those little fruit produce things, some asters, bells of Ireland, some bachelor buttons and craspedia. And over here, of course, is a tray of stock where I've got a little bit of a blank on one of the kinds of asters I tried to grow. More stock, more straw flower, more eucalyptus, some rudbeckia. I think there's some tomatoes over there and some oregano, not Oregon, and cress. Here's some lupin. Up here's all kinds of sweet peas and some snapdragons. Over here is some Chinese forget-me-nots. It's beautiful trade, super good. And then a bunch of veg for the family. Over here I've got some geraniums, more bachelor buttons, some heuchera. This is some peppers. Down here are some snapdragons and some dahlias that are waking up are right down there. Here are the potted up heuchera. I've had some real poor germination on my celosia. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 after about 2.5 weeks. So thinking I'm not going to get great germination there. Similar in here. This is Queen Anne's lace, blue plurum, and euphorbia. And I've got maybe 4 or 5. So not everything works out, but hopefully I'll give them a little bit more time. I potted up some of my dahlias. Here are the eucalyptus I tried to save. The greenhouse turned off. So during the start of the power outage and ice storm here, we were using a generator to run the heater for the greenhouse, and it turned off one night, and it got inside the greenhouse to be -0.2, which is not crazy cold, but it's cold enough that the eucalyptus said, "I'm burned, I hate you, I'm going to die, and I'm going to turn into a crisp." So I am trying in several ways to bring it back. So I potted up a little bit, I potted up a lot, and we're just gonna go from there. And then I have some calendula and a couple more of my mahogany splendid hibiscus. And then the Lysianthus I grew. That's the only ones that actually stayed for me. And then I have a few dahlias I'm trying to start from seed. So you can see there's lots and lots of plants in here. There's probably about, after germination, I think I have 5,000 or 6,000. On the bottom under here, you can see this, sorry. You can see the shelf under here. There's actually 4 trays where I'm trying to germinate some larkspur. I'm gonna actually throw them outside and see if that helps them. And then these 2 trays that are hidden here are marigolds and snaps. And they actually just started to light up with a few teeny tiny germination spots. So I am happy. It's not a perfect year. It's definitely a learning year. Learning up about backup heating, when I can start stuff, when I should order it, how long it's going to actually take to get here, how quickly you have to pot something up after it gets here, because those eucalyptus came from Jolly Farmer, and if I had potted them up that day, they would not be in the situation they were in. But I had left them in their tiny little plug trays, and that did not work out so well. But I have some that look like this. So I definitely have some that are in like good shape. It's just going to be a matter of getting it all done. And then of course you can see this spot here. This is where my window needs to go. We ordered it, but it was a 6-week delay to get the window. So we're just reliant right now on this fan that vents the air out when it gets too hot. But it works. And that's all I can ask of it. So I'm sitting in the house after getting some stuff done in the garden, picking up the kids from school, and I feel like this wave of fear has come over me about just like failure at scale, not being able to deliver. And so I'm really under promising on what I will be able to do. I chose to only apply to a market where there's only 3, one in summer, one's in early fall, and one is like an afterwards one if I wanted to do some things with like dried flowers and salves and soaps and candles and see what I wanted to do. But I wanted it to be really low pressure over the summer. My CSA, I only took 10 folks on. So far, most of those spots have been taken. But I don't know if it's because it's really the first time trying to like bite into this and seeing how much I can actually take on. But I have this fear that's kind of nagging at the back of me, and it's making me have to sit and go, I have to remind myself to breathe. It's okay. I didn't take on too much. I'm growing a lot of flowers, but that's because I want to see if I can grow them. I want to see what grows in my area, how well it grows, when it blooms, to have, better information to make decisions. I like data. It's kind of one of the reasons I do some of the work I do, is I like informed decisions about what's going on and how to know how things will go. What are the conditions of the soil, things like that. I don't have a farm stand. I don't have all the rows and beds like somewhat prepped. They're not even cut out of the ground yet. I have to figure all of those things out, where the wet spots are, how irrigation is going to go. So I didn't want this year to be a year I needed to really make money. I would like to make enough to cover the investment in tubers and seeds and maybe some of the supplies, which means I need to make about $3,500, which isn't drastic, but if I make, say, even $400 or $500 for each of those markets, that would be between $1,200 and $1,500, and I'm only going to make about $600 to $1,000 on the CSA. So that doesn't quite get me there, but it's a start. But I need to not overanalyze. I want to just document this year, figure out making sure that I'm charging fair prices and not undercutting other local farmers, because it's something I'm not doing permanently full-time right now, because I'm trying to get to that point. But I also want to be fair and equitable and sustainable. I want to make sure that our farm is practicing regenerative farming practices, so no pesticides, as organic as possible, being very careful about plastics and PFAS and things like that are in the soil, making sure that I can amend for where the soil is at right now and do actual soil tests. But sometimes I forget to breathe, and you can hear that when I talk, because I talk so fast and it starts to race out of me because I'm excited, but at the same time it's like there's something wrapped around my heart going, you're not going to succeed here. And I have this inclination most of my life to push and succeed at all costs, to say I can take that on and I will take that burden and I will do that thing. And I'm trying to be really mindful here that I don't take the joy out of it. I took the joy out of photography by needing to make it into a full-time business, wanting it to make $100,000 a year, taking every client, not firing clients that were not good clients, and it was really, really hard. And I did that while having a full-time job and having 3 young children. At the time I stopped doing photography, my kids were 1, 2, and 4. And I just stopped because I was sick. My chronic illness was giving me a lot of problems. My hand joints were terrible. If I shot a wedding for 8 or 10 hours, it took 2 or 3 days to recover. And I wasn't here on the weekends with my children. One of the things about flower farming is I can set the schedule. I can do it early in the morning when I'm not working. I can do it during the weekends. I can pick which market I want to attend. I can hire someone to help. And I just need to remember I don't need to do it all. I have a great family. I have a great community. I have the capacity to get help. So with that, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax this evening with my kids. And tomorrow will be a new day. And we'll get done what we get done. We'll learn from what we learn. Thanks, folks. Bye.